Coming to you from sunny California and the Great White North. Get ready. We are breaking down the obstacles on the Armchair Ninja Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Armchair Ninja Podcast. It is Friday, December 8th, 2017. My name is Rich, and joining me once again this week is Bijan. How you making out?
I haven't slept in 2 days. I'm feeling fantastic. And, yeah, I've been stress eating, dude. I just ate 3 Big Mac burgers and a large fry. I am a disgusting human being.
That is awful, man. How do you eat 3 Big Macs?
It's a talent, you know. I can pack away a lot of food, but I probably shouldn't be. Like earlier today, I did Insanity and P90X, and then I finish it off with 3 Big Macs. I make brilliant life decisions.
Yeah, it's important when you're working out to give yourself the proper nutrition to rebuild, everything that you've been doing to it. Yeah, good job.
Oh, yeah. I'm a smart man. What can I say, guys? It's finals.
Yeah, so you're going hard at it. You're trying to do, from talking to you earlier, you're doing your course load and your workout at the same time? I'm not sure what the heck you're doing.
Yeah, so I have an online class during Tuesdays, right? So while the teacher is lecturing, because we kind of have like this Skype video type thing, I just kind of have it in front of me while I'm doing Insanity and P90X, and I get my workout on. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I don't know.
Oh my God, I don't know how you do that. That's pretty impressive, man. That's good. If you can actually pass the course afterwards, I should say it's impressive.
I have an A+ right now, so hopefully it stays that way.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I don't know. It beats just sitting around watching a screen for 2 hours.
Yeah, that's cool. So this week, for those of you tuning in, we are going to continue our coverage of Jump City, Seattle. We're going to be doing episodes 5 and 6. Going to be a really short episode this week. I'm hoping. I don't think we're going to go on too long about it.
I don't have much to say.
Next week, we'll be wrapping up Jump City, Seattle and previewing Beastmaster. So we're going to tie up all the Jump City, Seattle this week and next so that we can move on into the Beastmaster season, and that'll carry us right back into Ninja. I'm hoping.
Yeah, get ready, y'all. Ultimate Beastmaster is going to be really fun.
Yeah, but first off, I gotta tell you, I'm loving Jump City, Seattle, man. This is a pretty great show.
It's fun. It's really fun. They do a lot of really high-intensity athletics. The stakes are really high, especially because the danger element is extremely high. So, yeah, it's really cool stuff.
Yeah, when you're running across the rooftop of the Seattle Center, this is the craziest show I think I've ever seen. Like, safety is such a secondary concern, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, we need to have the stats for how many people are injured just at this point of the season. I mean, American Ninja Warrior has had 9 seasons and more if you can include like boot camp and everything like that, right? And I must say, I mean, there's been some egregious injuries on American Ninja Warrior, but the amount of injuries we've had in the span of 6 episodes is ridiculous. I mean, it's almost like I'd say a third to half the field of competitors on this show have pretty significant injuries. It's not like, oh, I stubbed my toe. I mean, dislocated toes, sprained ankles, broken wrists, like just to name a few. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, like the thing is that the alternates are too injured at this point to run, so people are running with their injuries. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. Man, I was starting to get, like, the older I get, because when I was younger when I watched this, I didn't really care too much about it. And now that I'm older and I've had injuries, the fact that the show is letting them get away with, like, doing these, I was getting really angry at whoever's in charge of the show.
Yeah, I've been old since we started doing this, so I guess I'm used to being in that situation. But yeah, so let's talk about the first episode here. We'll split it into 2 episodes. Might as well do that. It's got nice the way this works out because with the 2 episodes, we get all 4 teams. There's only 4 teams in the whole thing, so it's nice. We get to talk about all 4 teams each week.
Yeah.
So in the first episode, it was Tribe versus Tempest. These are the 2 veteran teams.
Yeah, these going into the season, these were the 2 teams that I have to imagine most people would consider like the front runners, right? You have the team that's like in Tribe that's known for their speed, that's going to blow out everybody in the speed. And you have Tempest, the team that's going to beat everybody out in terms of difficulty and techniques of like tricks and stuff like that. So it's really interesting to see like who would take the cake on this one, and if maybe like Tempest would beat Tribe in the speed round, or Tribe would beat Tempest in the free running like tricks round. It was interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Had a little bit of drama before the whole thing started with one of the team members like vomiting on the side of the course.
I don't blame this guy. I mean, he was nervous from doing like, guys, this guy had to do this crazy, insane jump where, Rich, do you know the stats of like how big the gap was?
I don't think they actually said it, did they? But yeah, it was a long jump. They were all eyeballing it. And this is the shortest guy on the team, like a notably short competitor, and they want him to clear this very large gap.
Yeah, either way, it's super dangerous. I mean, everything on this show is dangerous. It's free running. Free running, you just know you're in danger no matter what. But yeah, dude was getting super nervous, vomiting and everything. There's 5 people on a team. If you've got a member that's so nervous that he's vomiting and everything, maybe switch him out, or maybe have him take a different portion of the course. I don't know. Rich, did you feel like it was necessary for him to tackle this obstacle if he's clearly not comfortable doing it? I think it'd be important to like have you not do it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the reasoning was. I could get maybe not putting him on the second part of the course. So just to be clear, this was the biggest course that they had, and the foot race was an all-out, almost like a relay race like you would see on a track. Like, it was so long. It was like the length of a football field.
It was the length of a football field, they said. It had hurdle points. It's all on a giant slanted roof. So you're running in a diagonal way with a slope. And I with hurdles and everything else, I mean, I think it was really cool and dynamic by the fact that it's different, right? Visually, I don't know. I mean, you're just seeing a dude sprint. But I found it very interesting. Tempest chose Kane Sinclair to run the giant, full-on sprint of this diagonal roof, because this guy going into this had, I believe, a broken ankle, if not a severely hurt ankle. And this guy, it wasn't one of those fake things like, oh, he might be hurting a little bit. You know, this guy could barely walk. I mean, visually you see it. He's wincing in pain for anything he does. And I know these competitors are like tough and everything. Once again, the reason they have referees in MMA, the reason they have guidelines in American Ninja Warrior and everything else in medics, you need to protect the competitors and the athletes from themselves. Sometimes they're too tough for their own good. And this is coming from a guy that's done it many times, you know? This guy had no business being on that course and probably significantly worsening his injury.
Yeah, I would agree. But they also have a show to run. And just get out there and just give it your all, guy. We'll support you, I guess. I
hope they're supporting them lawsuits, man. That dude sure had a lawsuit. I don't think anybody sued him, but I could see that easily happening. You know, honestly, we need to look back, Rich, and see, like, a lot of people got injured, and these are real injuries. Like, did the show take care of these injuries? Because that's complete crap if they just, like, oh, here's, like, $5,000, treat yourself, you know, like the show needs to be responsible for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's somebody out there that knows. We're actually, I expected a lot of silence during these Jump City Seattle episodes. It's the complete opposite, because we got several people correcting us on the Levi Muhlenberg fact from last week.
Yeah. Saying it for the Levi Muhlenberg, I was even thinking in my head, I'm like, I really feel like he competed after this. But I was looking at the wrong source, and it said that it was his last thing. That's more of my bad. I'm not going to, out. I take responsibility for that. Yeah. But Levi Muhlenberg did compete, I believe, 1 or 2 more times after that. But let's just say it was a giant fall from grace. He just, basically, his heart wasn't into it. And he kind of just, like, I wouldn't say phoned it in, but it was kind of like the Jeff Britton thing, where it's like everybody's hiding and everybody has like visions of grandeur for how well he's going to do, and just it falls very flat very early on, and it's very heartbreaking for everybody there.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, and the only reason I brought that up, not to call you out for the mistake from last episode, it was more to say that we have, like, so many of you that are so up on like the deep history of this. So if you do know any of the history as far as like the injuries that they sustained, was the show good for it? Did they help them out? Because there were several. There definitely were several, especially Levi's being the most noticeable one.
I mean, seriously, if they had a season 2, there's going to be a death on the filming. You know what? I don't even want to go there, but it's like somebody's really going to hurt themselves.
Yeah, I don't know how much more they could do. Like, just let's film at night in a wet alley. Oh, no. I got it. We'll go to the top of a stadium. I think that will be the key to making sure that someone doesn't make it through this season.
I'm kind of scared. What are the finals going to look like on this show? It's been so long since I've seen it. I don't remember. Like, are they just going to, like, have them, like, just jump out of a plane and do tricks plummeting to the
blades,
earth or something?
Yeah, like, they're going to have, like, just the craziest course we've ever seen, probably. The fire will be on the course. It won't be beside it. The pyrotechnics will just be part of the course.
Yeah. Just do tricks through flames. You know, everything's slicked in grease, you know?
Yeah. And we've tied you all together. Go! But yeah, it is entertaining because we know they all survive, so it makes it a little bit easier to bear. But yeah, I actually liked the rooftop run. I know it didn't lend itself very well to the freestyle portion, but the all-out foot race, I thought that was really good, especially because each leg of the race kind of had certain skill sets, right? So they had to choose someone that would be good at different things for each. There's like a long hurdle section. There's one with some big drops. And I really thought it made a really interesting relay.
Yeah, it made a very good front portion of the episode where the race was very dynamic. It allows these competitors to build up a full head of speed, you know, and genuinely sprint through it. On the other courses, they were so compacted that there was a lot of stopping, turning, readjusting, things like that, where you just didn't get the breakneck speed that you want. It was so dynamic. I mean, they had to do a lot more like different variation tricks in the previous episodes, but this one it's more of just like, kind of as Rich alluded to, like a relay and track where you're just like full sprint, doing hurdles, doing giant jump gaps, stuff like that, kongs, things like that. And it made for a fun dynamic portion of the front half. More so, going into this, did you think Tribe would take it?
Kinda, yeah, actually I did.
Yeah. Tribe's the veteran fast team, guys. Yeah, I was like, oh, Tribe's got this, because this plays into everything that Tribe does. Tribe is very flow heavy, which means that, you know, you can do transitioning gaps and everything and still continue moving forward. You don't like land and stop and then like build up running again. They can always just continue moving forward. And we know they're a very fast team. This is kind of what they specialize in. So this entire route, this whole course, everything was tailor-made for them to do well in the speed portion. That said, I was like, you know, I already knew, like, going into this, all right, Tribe's got it. I was really curious how well a team like Tribe, that is not very good at all, when at obstacles, is going to do on a course where basically they don't have many weird things to play off of. You know, it's kind of like a roof, giant like jump off things, and monkey bars. And we already know they play a little conservative. They're not going to be doing giant jumps off of those roofs or anything. So it's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, they really made a point of it with Frosty, for sure, because they had him go first and they were questioning it. One thing we haven't mentioned is the commentators, and I should note their names, were actually really good. I have no issues with commentators, whatever. I think they're actually some of the strongest commentators we've had. Extremely knowledgeable, very engaging, like very good at keeping you up to speed on where everything's at and what the stakes are. The more I thought about it through this episode, the more I thought the commentating was like top notch.
Did you recognize one of those commentators?
What was Blair Herder, was it? And the other one was Lucy Romberg's brother, right?
Do you recognize Blair Herder from a certain show?
I know I'm supposed to, and I know that name so much. Was he Was he one of the hosts on? No. Season. Oh, God. Why am I thinking he was on that ridiculous show, Spartan?
He wasn't.
Was it A&W season 1?
It was. I was waiting.
I should have went with my first instinct.
Season of American Ninja Warrior, man.
But he did terrible on there. I remember him being terrible on that.
Yeah. So, and what's interesting is this didn't film all that far from first season of A&W. But, you know, he improved, and more importantly, it seems like he understood this sport a little bit more. Hosting gigs are a little different. You know, it all depends on who you're co-hosting with, how much you can bounce off of them, things like that. First season of American Ninja Warrior, I have a feeling he came into that show not knowing a whole lot of what the sport was. He had a good understanding, at least, of what freerunning was, and if not, his co-host definitely. You could tell his co-host was very knowledgeable in the sport, and he was able to play off of that. So the dynamic was far more improved.
Yeah, that could be it too. It could be that he does better as the straight man, basically, and not providing the color commentary, right? Where Matt would have taken over that role.
Mm-hmm. And I'm looking, and season 1, A&W season 1 was hosted by Allison Hayslip and Blair Herter. Both of them came from a background of not A&W or anything from that sport. It was more of G4 and I believe Attack of the Show, if I remember correctly. So they were more of just like hosts from a completely different show on the network of G4 and just thrown into this series. I'm sure they knew some stuff, but I don't think this was necessarily A&W was necessarily their thing. So I'm really glad they were able to readjust a new host very quickly after that. To make life easy, guys, you know, Tribe won the speed round. It was pretty self-explanatory. They were just flying through the course. They made it look real easy, and it was actually pretty impressive. Dude that was throwing up earlier that we were hitting about, dude did absolutely fine. I don't know what he was like. Well, I'm like, well, I don't know what he was nervous about. Well, yeah. I'm pretty sure I know what he was nervous about. But the one thing that like it was a theme that kept on going on and on in this episode was injuries, and the guy that had the broken ankle when he was running up the thing, he gave it his all. I was actually really impressed because he was flying through it and he looked great. But right afterwards, they showed him and he was in rough shape. This dude, I think, really, really like injured himself far worse, and I was getting really nervous for him. Just shows are not fun when you see like genuinely people hurting themselves, man.
Yeah, it takes a lot away from it. And then you wonder because they don't have an alternate, right? They just don't.
It made for an interesting dynamic, right? Because it's like, what do you do, guys?
It's like, well, which of them has the least injury that can continue on into the freestyle round? And he did amazing. He did a fantastic run, one of the best runs that they've had. He got an 8.3. We're not going to run through every single run.
I think he was the star of the episode. What was his name? Kane Sinclair again, right?
Kane Sinclair, yeah.
Yeah, that dude was definitely the star of the episode. I mean, I cannot give more props to that guy. Just mad respect. Trick portion, what'd you think, Rich?
Some of the most boring runs we've seen. There were some good ones, but because of the layout of the course, they basically had to do some very high difficulty tricks because they had to run from one spot to another, and there's a lot of time eaten up doing that. Kane did a good job, even when, you know, he obviously had hurt his ankle even more doing the whole thing. He started doing some tricks on one foot and stuff at the end just to eat up some of the time, and yeah, it was really good. But I gotta say, Billy, one of the guys from Tempest, the last runner for Tempest, was probably the most boring run I've ever seen. Like,
it was god awful, and a lot of these runs were very boring. I think the course left a lot to be desired, and as much as I thought it was cool for the course to have a important component of the speed round, I think this was the weakest course of the entire season, just because you need a course that, you know, helps out both parts, and the competitors just didn't have enough to play with on this course. They couldn't chain tricks together because everything was so far apart. There are these two giant like I guess 10-foot drops. So guys would just start doing this cool like flip thingy off this 10-foot gap, and then just run around on like a flat like asphalt, I don't know, like bed for a while and not do basically anything. Kind of like one dude was like spinning on his back doing like dancing. Another guy was doing the hoop to hoop. Just I don't know. It was boring as all heck, dude. And I don't blame the competitors. They had nothing to go off of. All the other courses had all these different scaffolding, park benches, tables, monkey bars, chains, like all these other things where they can do all these cool stuff. This area had nothing.
Except a mustache montage. That was about the best we got out of that whole series of runs.
Ugh.
You didn't like the Brian Orosco segment that they had?
I mean, it's just I've seen it before, and it's no fault to the show. It's just for me, I feel like when it comes to Brian Orosco, nobody has anything else to say other than, "Hey, this guy's got a cool mustache."
Yeah, and it's funny. He says something along those lines too. Like basically, I don't want to be known as the guy that has the mustache. I want it to be secondary.
Sorry, Brian, but they are pigeonholing you.
They kind of did. All that being said, so the regular rounds were kind of whatever. Tempest ends up taking it, sending it to sudden death.
Shocker. They were worse than usual on this. Tribe had nothing to do.
But Tribe, as I mentioned, Billy having probably the most boring run I'd ever seen, I think was actually taking it easy because he knew they had to go sudden death. They were too far behind to really catch up, so he just kind of breezed his way through it and then really brought it on for sudden death. And both Billy and Brian Orosco had really great runs in sudden death on that same course that we were just saying wasn't really suited for it.
Yeah, Brian Orosco started the entire run with this really cool thing where he was like on the ladder that goes to the top of the roof where there's a 10-foot gap, right, guys? So imagine like you're on the top of the roof of a house or building, right? And he's still hanging off of the edge of the top of the roof. So like, on the side, holding himself up with his palms. And he somehow pushes off the roofing and does like a double backflip and lands on his feet on the ground and then just continues on from there. No stopping or anything. And I was like, well, if you don't mess up epically, you won this, because that was freaking amazing. And he proceeds to do like a bunch of other cool variations and tricks. I mean, the guys that know how to do these giant gaps, they know their stuff. And Brian Orosco brought it. Props to that guy because, going into the season, it was a Levi Muhlenberg show. And Brian Orosco was always, unfortunately, the number 2 to Levi Muhlenberg in the earlier seasons of everything. And he really, really showed his worth in this.
Yeah, for those in the know, he did a Quasimodo off the ladder. I think I noted here. I think I got that right. And he did a double Kong in the middle of the run, which was cool to watch too.
That was dope.
Yeah, I like that. Lots of cool stuff. I just love the names of everything, so I kind of took a few notes along the way. Someone did Paul Darnell did a leg giant into a kumquat, like just the craziest names for this stuff.
Nobody knows what the heck that is, but yeah, they're cool.
But yeah, so that was that episode. It was pretty cool. Brian ended up taking it home for Tempest, so they had a perfect record, which meant that they got a bye, which they desperately needed with the injury that they had for Kane. So that gives him one last race that they have to run, basically.
I'm sure they'll take it.
Yep. So moving on to the other episode, this one was the one I was looking forward to all season, being an A&W fan, because it would be Flip Rodriguez versus Drew Drechsel. Flip and JJ, versus Drew Drechsel. And then Flip sets it out as the alternate. So that sucked. I was definitely very disappointed with that.
Did they say why? Because I don't think Flip was injured at this point. Like, did they say Flip was injured or what was going on? Why did he sit out?
They always have an alternate, and it was just his turn to sit out.
So there's always like they're forced to sit out because they've run all the other episodes. Is that what's going on?
Probably. I think it was a different one in each episode for each one. He was
okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. It seemed to me like as soon as I saw the course from the previous episode, I was like, oh, Flip will do. I'd love to see Flip run this. He's so fast, right? I thought it would suit him, but yeah, didn't get to see it.
So I don't know about you, but I was excited to see everybody run. But come on, man. Like, let's be real, everybody. It's Miami free running. They are 0-3 at this point. They've lost every single match against Rogue, who's like the young guns that have just been winning everything. And when the one loss they had, they barely lost. I mean, I thought it was like done deal just going into the episode.
Really?
Yeah. But I will say this. I thought it was like a Tribe Tempest situation like the previous episode, where I felt Miami free running would be the quicker team, but not be able to win the tricks round. And unfortunately, the tricks round is a tiebreaker. So I thought that's how it would go. I'm not saying that's how it went, guys, but I thought we'd have Miami free running win the speed relay and Rogue win the other two parts.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see why you'd think that. It didn't quite work out that way. I wanted to note one thing before we get into actual results here. It's weird to see, like, with all the things, hindsight and everything else, and you get the backstory, and they don't know each other necessarily. So listening to them strategize and things and talk about each other is really interesting to hear. Like Drew Dressel talking about JJ Woods saying, like, yeah, they got him in the running. No, I don't think he's that fast, right? Meanwhile, JJ was a sprinter, like, because the dude doesn't look like he should be able to run as fast as he can.
Yeah, man. I mean, some people just wear, like, they don't look as powerful as they are. But JJ Woods, they're saying he's the fastest competitor on the team, and he showed it. And that guy is such a physical specimen. Like, it didn't really hit me because I see him for years on ANW, and you only see small little portions of him because, they have a million competitors to get to. And you kind of just write him off as, like, the muscly guy that's fast. But he's so much more. It's crazy to see his background and just how far he's come. Good on JJ, man. Like, really, that's really impressive what he was able to come from, especially with his body type.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think that they did a better service to JJ in this episode than I've ever seen A&W do. Like, I thought he was fantastic this whole episode. All the backstory, all the little shout outs from the other competitors saying basically like, JJ is a monster. JJ will work out constantly. He gets into the gym. The first thing he starts doing is like doing push-ups and pull-ups. Like, he just does not stop. And the rest of them are all looking at him like, and like in awe of how jacked he is. Like, just like, he is so, like, he's built like a football player, not a parkour athlete. Like the rest of them just marvel at him and how much he just constantly works out. It was really interesting and funny.
Yeah, the thing that just shocked me is it's like Flip Rodriguez versus JJ Woods in a sprint. How many people would actually pick JJ Woods to beat Flip Rodriguez? But according to the show, JJ Woods is actually faster than Flip Rodriguez, which is just mind-blowing to me. I would have never guessed that.
Yeah, and we actually got to see him compared to Drew Dressel because they both ran the same leg of the race, right? So in the speed portion, they both ran the middle leg, the one that we talked about, the longest portion of the run. And Drew and JJ basically tied for that portion of the run. But Rogue, their first and third runners were a second or two faster than Miami free running. So Rogue ended up winning the speed round, which meant that their chances were astronomical for the next one, right? When we're looking at this course that is really prone to very high difficulty, elaborate, high wire tricks, which is Rogue's specialty. It just wasn't looking very good for them at that point.
Yeah, Rogue, they're the best team when it comes to the crazy, like, risk-based tricks. I mean, these guys are absolutely insane, and they're going to do those crazy tricks. But the storyline, once again, like the previous episode, guys, we have another injury. This time to none other than Drew Dressel. It looks like Like, he hurt himself doing the running portion, and he said he might have dislocated his toe, that it was feeling bad. At one portion, he takes off his sock, and it wasn't a question. It was clearly dislocated. I mean, his toe was disgusting. Did you notice that, Rich?
I didn't even look at his toe. I might have been taking notes at the point. I didn't know they zoomed right in on it.
Dude, it was like bulged upwards where the bone is like clearly out of place and everything. It was nasty. And he's all like, just tape it up because, you know, it's popping in and out of its socket and everything. And I'm just like, once again, somebody needs to like take care of these competitors. They have an alternate for a reason. But it was crazy. Drew Dreshel even hinted at one portion like, hey, maybe we should call in the alternate. You know, kind of hinting like, hey, I'm not in 100% shape. We should have the alternate come in and fill in for me. And for some reason, like his I don't know if it was the captain of his team or whatever, was all like, you know, I don't know about that. You're gonna like, you should just tough it out and you know, like get that taken care of, but you need to start preparing for this course. And I wanted to like go through my screen and punch the guy in the face. I don't know who he is or what the heck's up with him, but like you don't say that to somebody that's clearly injured. Like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Well,
I would never in my life say that to somebody.
Right.
And that was really frustrating for me as somebody that comes from a background of multiple team sports. Like, shame on that guy. I don't care if it's for a show or whatever. Like, safety first, and it was very clear. It wasn't like a maybe. It was pretty clear to me that Drew Dreshel was hurt and trying to be like, hey, we should have somebody fill in for me. And dude's like, tough it out. Screw that guy.
I thought that's what he was saying at first, but if you listen back, he reminds him that, or I think Drew chimes in with it like, but Dylan's injured, so we don't really have an alternate. Like, it's their alternate is injured as well. Like, they don't have an alternate that can run the course. Drew was in better shape than Dylan to run the course, so Drew kind of went, yeah, I guess I gotta run it. Like, there's really nobody else to do it.
So frustrating. I don't care. Like, yeah, if that's the case, you still shouldn't be telling Drew Dreshel to get up and start preparing for the course. Like, right. You know what? Hey, let's think of a strategy where you're not landing on your toes all that much. Because when we see Drew Dreshel run, like, just, I don't know. Drew Dreshel had a plan in his head of a previous run, like, of his route, and it was not to the detriment of his toe at all.
No, his run was interesting. It was really good. He started off sitting cross-legged on the ground and then did a backflip. Like,
he's kind of known for this. Yeah, he's known for this in the ANW circles, guys. If you ever look up some videos of Drew Dreshel, he does like these and tries to like he teaches some of the other ANW competitors doing that trick. It's kind of like his known hallmark for when he's at tapings. People do this trick. It's fun.
Cool. He had really great flow. It was a great run. One thing we should mention is Spider. His whole stunt sequence was really cool.
Spider's on Miami Free Running. He's one of the main guys.
Yeah, like, he finished his run, and you can always tell a great run from like the good runs because the other team comes over, congratulates them, and tells them how great it was. Like, there's a good camaraderie. It's very similar to AW in that way. There is some competitiveness there, but you can definitely see the respect between them all, and it's a very similar feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Drew Dreshel did a lot of high intensity, like a lot of shock landing, I guess, tricks at the beginning, and then the pain probably set in, and he was just done, so to speak. And yeah, Spider was doing these crazy flips and all these types of like gaps. I mean, this was a much more dynamic episode for this course than the previous one, and Spider just showed he was kind of like, I wouldn't say it was like shadowed, but there were more important personalities from Team Miami Free Running at this point of the season, and this was the episode where he actually showed what he's all about, and it was good.
Yeah, and JJ took a nasty fall into his butt.
Oh my god, I thought dude, like, guys, this guy like does a backflip off of like a 10-foot gap, slips off his ankles, and lands square on his butt. I would say another word, but it's family show. And dude, I thought he broke his tailbone. he gets up and he can't even like try to fake like doing other tricks. He gets up and he's grabbing his butt like hardcore in the most gratuitous pain. He's like, ah! It was hilarious, but I was so scared. I mean, you could get paralyzed landing like that. You can do some severe damage to your spine. I mean, whew. I'm glad it doesn't look like he had any major injuries, but man, that was scary.
Yeah, and his arm came down in a weird way too. It looked like he had almost injured his arm at the same time. And then the host, I thought it was interesting because the host took a moment to like turn to the camera and say like, for you at home, you don't appreciate how hard he landed. Like they could feel the roof vibrate from his landing. Like he hit so unbelievably hard, but thankfully he was okay.
Yeah, I mean, JJ is clearly the biggest man in the entire competition, so that's a lot of weight and everything landing, and that was a big, like, it was a big jump, guys. He didn't just, like, jump off this little tiny transition. I mean, he was flying through the air and landed square on his butt on cement. Or was it cement or scaffold? It's something like that, right? It was a hard surface, and that was rough.
Yeah, it wasn't good. So in the end, like with Spider's good run, was able to make up for that somewhat. It looked like Miami Freerunning had a really good chance because they only needed a 7.7 to go to sudden death. With Adrian running, who's actually really good.
And a lot of runs, as long as you don't fall or as long as you try, they were giving out pretty much around 8s. So it looked like a good shot for Adrian, who is the team captain for Miami Freerunning.
Yeah, he did some interesting moves. He did a very difficult pimp flip, but didn't quite land it. And it seemed to kind of all ride on that, really, when it comes down to it. End up with a 7.
Like, it was a run where he's doing a lot of basic low-level ops, like I guess transitions. And then he crosses his heart and does this really insane, really cool trick. But he basically predicated his entire run on one difficult move. And that's just not the way, like, that. This is the wrong sport for that. And he knows that. I mean, this guy's a team captain. Like, he knows that. He needed to make a lot of the rest of his run a lot more flowy and everything. And his approach just didn't work. I mean, I can't knock him too much. The guy knew what he's capable of doing far more than I can, right? But his approach just wasn't there. And watching it, you're just like, oh man, he's blowing it.
If he needed a solid 8.2, 8.3, like if he needed a good score, I could see doing it that way. Like just basically like, I'm going to land the trick of all tricks to nail this down. But he only needed a 7.7. He really could have not phoned it in, but he could have just made sure the whole thing was solid and flowed well, and could have coasted almost into the sudden death, but just didn't take that route.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I mean, all he really had to do was do a bunch of mid-level tricks that you know he can do, and just connect them all and land them. That's all he really had to do.
Went for broke, and unfortunately he did break. That was it. Yeah. They were out. So, 0-3 for Miami Freerunning.
0-4, bro. 0-4. They lost every single matchup.
No, they only played against the other 3 teams though, so that's 0-3.
Never mind. 0-3. 0-3. Yeah, very good point. Crazy. It sucks because you know the talent coming from that, but in the long end, the story doesn't end there for Miami Freerunning. They were able to transition their talents because they are the youngest team. They're so young. We have 2 of the biggest stars in A&W coming from that. And they were able to transition very easily from freerunning into American Ninja Warrior obstacle courses. So I'm really happy for them. And I'm really happy that Felipe Rodriguez and JJ Woods were able to go out of their comfort zone and try that different sport.
Yeah, it's great stuff. So Rogue went to the semifinals, and they'll be facing off against Tribe.
Yeah, Tribe.
And the winner from them will face Tempest in the final episode. Cool.
Mm-hmm. So, Rich, who do you got winning between Tribe and Rogue? Rogue, for everybody, is the team of a bunch of like random, like singular free runners making this like specialized team. And they're very good at really difficult, crazy tricks. Tribe, which is the very fast team, but not necessarily, and they're really good at flow, but not necessarily difficult tricks. And there's Tempest, who's really good at I guess they're the best all around team, right? They're not specialized at any particular point, but they're good at they're good at everything, not great at any particular aspect. So, first of all, which team do you have winning between Tribe and Rogue going into the finals, and who do you have winning the entire show?
I have Tribe winning both of the next 2 episodes because of injuries.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a good point. Okay, so Tribe is the least injured team. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because
I guess, yeah.
Tribe versus Rogue, we've got Drew now with his toe situation and one of the other members out. And then with Tempest, we have Levi out and Kane injured. So, they're basically the only uninjured team that I'm aware of.
The team that's very safe and conservative in their approach goes into the finals with no injuries. That is a very good point. I think what's going to be real interesting for what you're saying of Tribe winning the entire thing and winning both, it's going to be predicated very heavily on what course we see. If we see a course like these 2 episodes, I think Tribe's going to have a really difficult time with the tricks portion. But if there is a course similar to previous episodes where everything's a little bit more compact and they have a bunch of opportunities for doing a bunch of smaller tricks and everything, I think you're right, Rich, where Tribe has a very good shot at doing everything and flowing together a bunch of their tricks. So very interesting. I'm not going to give my thoughts, guys, because I've seen the show. I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, very interesting, man.
So that is it for this week. Thank you all for listening. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can reach me as rich@ninjapodcast.com. I am at Ninja Podcast on both Instagram and Twitter. And Bijan, how can they reach you?
Hit me up at Twitter and Instagram at Bijan151. That is Bijan 151. Peace and love, y'all.
All right. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a fantastic week.
I said peace and love a little too early.